Welcome everyone, you're listening to perhaps watching Hot Sauce Sports. I'm Peace Del Reis, and I purposely didn't pay attention to Eagle's countdown. Eagle, of course, is joining us from studio. He is the only one. He will be joined in studio while we are still keeping our distance by guest Marco D'Amico, who's going to talk to us about hockey later in this episode. For now, however, joining
Not
me...
this episode.
Not this episode?
No, we're going to do it separately.
Oh, it's going to be separate.
If only...
I literally asked that question in the chat, and we said we'll do it together.
No, we said standalone.
So it's a standalone interview.
Yes.
Like the rest of them, like we've been doing. So disregard everything I've said. Disregarding it as always is Terry Tam. How are you, the disregardful Terry Tam?
I am disregarding everything, and I am fine. Thank you, sir. Your disregards to you.
Oh, thank you, sir. Thank you, guys, sir. Joining us from what appears to be the wilderness is our leading graphite, Duke. How's it going, bud?
It's not bad. I'm doing okay. I will tell you something. I went to the grocery store today. I was buying a pack of garlic powder, and as I grabbed it, a bunch of garlic powder just fell out of the pack. It went inside my shoe. Wasn't wearing socks. Had to dump out my shoe in the middle of the aisle and got the weirdest looks ever. So I'm doing okay, bud.
And now your foot smells gross, right?
Yeah.
Or great.
Sweaty garlic.
And also,
Terrible.
while you're in the middle of a wind tunnel, as you are right now, as you can see.
Whenever the wind picks up, Duke, we will ask you for your weather report. Because you legitimately remind me of like the weather reporters in 1990s broadcasts. So we're gonna cut to you now and again. You'll have to give us an update with regards to the weather. Boys, how you been doing in quarantine? So nearing going back.
What?
To,
You know,
What?
words. Put
I'm
words.
sorry, man. I'm exhausted today. I'm exhausted. It's gonna be a terrible show.
What can you say?
We're getting back to normalcy. We're ending quarantine. How are you doing, Terry?
The quarantine's been good, man. I actually love this shit. You have no idea how much I love this. It's a lot of time to work on the hot sauce stuff, spending time with my lady. It's good. Can't complain.
Absolutely. I'm sure your lady despises every minute of it.
Every single minute.
Duke,
Yeah, I don't
what are you
know.
up to today?
I don't know.
Ruining grocery stores.
All
All right.
No, man, just going crazy.
All right.
I'm going
Very
crazy.
incriminating
I'm going
routine.
crazy.
Eagle, how did you spend your day?
Working, dealing with incompetence and negligence.
Okay, don't ask him a question, then talk.
Yeah, seriously, man.
Yeah, I'm
Seriously.
dealing with incompetence at work. It's fun. It feels
Yeah.
like I'm working with you guys.
Yep.
I know. That's our goal, is to make it feel as homey as possible. Give you the feeling of normalcy while in quarantine. That's the whole thing. Sports are getting set to do that, but just as we were getting great news about the return of MLS, the return of English Premier League, the return of the NHL, NBA, it's all awesome. Cities still continue to be embroiled in protests. Last week we talked about Drew Brees, who gave the answer about the flag he's given over the last 3 years, but didn't realize, holy shit, America's burning, and then got ripped apart for it. Then came with 3 follow-up videos with an apology. Look, it's completely cool to actually go out and get information and speak to people and have your opinion changed. So, like, I do actually appreciate Drew Brees having said that. I said in one of the Twitter back and forths I had, I said, listen, I don't think he's racist. I wouldn't make that assertion about someone I don't personally know. I will say it's short-sighted to not realize that the world you're in is changing and you need to pay attention to the voices around you.
So the only thing is that I think we said it last week, is that it's the worst timing to make a statement like that, and I just didn't think he probably wasn't thinking properly. And I listened to Booker.
Autopilot.
Yeah,
Like, if you heard the question, it wasn't even like a trying to be controversial question. It was like a softball that he, for no reason, went off on a tirade about the flag.
it reminds me of a whole Bill Burr skit where he talks about what was the owner of the Clippers, the old guy.
Donald Sterling.
Donald Sterling. Okay, so he's like this guy has no progressive way of thinking. He's like it's embedded in his head. So he hears the same question he heard from when he was 5 years old, and he just responds. The same with the duck hunter guy, the duck whistle guy. What were they called? Duck Dynasty. Those guys.
Like Dynasty,
He said he said something. He said like a homophobic comment, and it's like, what do you think? This guy's gonna be pro gay marriage and stuff like that? He lives in the sticks of Louisiana, and it's kind of the same thing with Drew Brees to the point where it's like, this is what it's always going on in his head. Don't disrespect the flag. Don't disrespect the flag. Don't disrespect the flag. And then the first question that comes to him, and he's like, well, I would never disrespect the flag. And he was on autopilot, like you said. Maybe it's short-sighted. Maybe it's tone deaf. I think that he recovered a little bit with his statements, multiple statements, because the first one was another autopilot statement. His teammates looked like they forgave him, but I listened to Booger McFarlane, and Booger McFarlane, not the how are we gonna say this? He's not the guy. No, it's not that. I'm not looking at him for an opinion or advice and stuff like that. Unless it's about the actual game of football.
You're barely looking for analysis from him, to be honest.
Yeah, exactly. And he actually said it right. He's like, listen, it wasn't the time for him to speak. He didn't have to speak. All he had to do was listen. That's it.
Did he get the short end of the stick by just being the first white guy who was interviewed at the wrong time? Like, it could have been, for example, I don't know, Jared Goff, or it could have been, Sam Darnold. But they just Sam Darnold was probably breaking quarantine and making out with strippers and getting himself a mono again.
I'm trying to figure out like, okay, for me it was super random. Like, I woke up one day and then there was an interview with him. So I'm trying to figure out what was exactly the question that was asked. Was it a leading question?
The question was very vaguely like, what do you what do you think of like the protests and calling, in reflection as to, Colin Kaepernick was drawing attention to, but like, it was super vague. Like, it was a softball type question. And then again, like, he just went off on autopilot without realizing sort of how it would be perceived.
So this might be a little bit of a hot take, actually. I think Drew Brees is not smart outside of football.
But
you know what, Eagle? I thought about that too, and he might be like an articulate guy, and very positive, and he sends a positive message.
But he's not super articulate. He just says the same shit all the time.
But that's what I'm saying. Is like he was the, like, when people talk about Drew Brees, like, he was on the black side. Like, they took him as his own because of what he did for New Orleans
during Katrina.
During Katrina, he did so much, and he's done so many good things that he was on their side. If the question was asked, like you said, to Sam Darnold, and he answered, or now we'll talk Jake Fromm. If Jake Fromm answered that way, nobody would have batted an eye. But because it's Drew Brees, it's like we expected you to be a little bit different, and he wasn't.
Not only that, the community you're in too, and everything, right?
Exactly.
Your team, your city, and your fans. So that made no sense to me. And like, the reason I brought it up is because remember there was the whole jewelry fraud incident that happened a couple of years ago. Like so Drew Brees, he basically got scammed. What it came down to, they ended up winning in a lawsuit, but there was a whole fraud thing with a jewelry investment in some stupid company. And I'm like, but you should know better. Yeah.
The thing is, like, a lot of these guys who spend that amount of time honing their craft are going to have stilted personalities. They're not going to be well-rounded individuals, right? So I guess you can kind of expect it. What I find most surprising is, how the fuck did we all hear about a Yahoo Finance interview? How did anybody even know it happened?
Yahoo
Finance.
Who uses Yahoo other than for Yahoo Sports?
Yeah, that's so strange.
Even the Yahoo search engine couldn't find that interview.
There you go.
Yeah, maybe next week he'll be interviewed by the butler from Ask Jeeves.
Maybe you'll find it on Bing or Alta Vista.
Alta Vista
is pretty good. Since then, however, he's gone after the real Donald J. Trump Twitter account, and they've gone back and forth. Donald Trump, I believe it was today, where he tweeted that he will no longer be paying to go see an NFL game until they learn to respect the flag once more. Once again, changing the argument from racial equality to let's talk about the flag. And also, Donald Trump, you're going to pretend like you bought tickets to those games? Come on, man. I barely buy tickets to games.
The thing about Donald Trump is that everything he does is he's pandering to a specific demographic, and that demographic has no interest in anything that it comes to changing the way that they think. And as I'm not an anti-Trumper, I'm not a Trumper, but I've always said that for the most part, he's been a pretty good president, other than him just not knowing how to speak, and he does not know how to speak to people. That's the problem.
Well, first of all, that's your opinion of General McConnell as a president.
Yeah.
Secondly, what I don't think he realizes that often he's speaking to a loud minority of people.
Yeah.
Like what's become obvious to me during this situation, Terry, is that the bulk of people don't seem to be the ones who want to boycott football for kneeling. It seems to be the hundreds of thousands of people protesting in the streets. Like, that doesn't seem to be a minority opinion at all. It seems, if anything, the hardline stance is the minority opinion.
And they're trying to do, and everybody's trying to do it peacefully. And the people that are ruining it, I mean, we saw the story that came out with that old man that was pushed by the police officer and cracked his head. And we saw him, and now there's videos being leaked that he was a guy who was starting riots and things like that. So the people that are actually for doing this for the right cause are not rioting and are not doing any of that stuff. So we have to make sure that what you're spreading online is the right information, and it's not just whatever Donald Trump says. You know what I mean? And I've been actually writing my thoughts on Colin Kaepernick article. It's halfway done, and I talk about it a bit. And it's like how you have to take whatever your thoughts are about a person, or whatever your thoughts are about a situation, you have to try your best to remove yourself and look at what the person is actually saying. And that's the situation, is that Donald Trump doesn't look at the message. He looks at, how is this affecting me and how can I benefit from it?
Absolutely. So that to me was most interesting about that was Drew Brees was the face of the league and has been one of the faces of the league. You know, he came up at the time where it was Brady, Peyton Manning, Drew Brees. In fact, we often don't realize how great Drew Brees was just because he existed at the same time as Tom Brady and Peyton Manning. But now the new faces of the league are guys like Deshaun Watson and Pat Mahomes, and they put their names on a video that the NFL put out. And guys, I don't know if you know this, but NFL video employees went rogue and put this video together without going to their bosses at NFL.com, showed them when it was done, saying, "Hey, this is what we have. We think it's good. We want to go to air with this. This is important to us." And their bosses said, "You know what? Let's do it. Let's go air this. Let's go put this on social media."
So it was a PR stunt, is what you're saying?
It wasn't at all. I've actually heard.
No, it wasn't a PR stunt at all.
It was a dude who's one of the guys has only been with the NFL for 6 months and was willing to risk his entire career at 27 years old.
Wow, your
because
6-month career.
Well,
I mean, you don't know how long it took him to get there.
It took him to get there. I can't imagine it's easy to get a job at the NFL, right?
Was he the guy who did the AB videos by any chance?
No, definitely not.
Definitely not him. Yeah.
But so like that's a lot of like if you think of, let's say, the lost opportunity of Colin Kaepernick. This is a guy who I think even Terry would say is less impressive at his job than Colin Kaepernick is at his job. Yet he's willing to risk it to get this message out there. I think that's a pretty cool story. That's the thing. Absolutely. We're gonna look back on years later and be like, yeah, that was kind of cool that they did this to risk that. And there's also a lot of people saying that because Patrick Mahomes is on the video, that Roger Goodell was kind of forced to make his own statement.
Well, not just Mahomes, but Ezekiel Elliott was there, OBJ was there.
They were all there. Jarvis Landry.
I have a mildly hot take.
What's your hot take?
We keep saying about how Goodell has to do this and that whenever, and that Goodell's been on the wrong side. I actually think Roger Goodell's wanted Colin Kaepernick to be signed the entire time. And the worst part about it is that 32 billionaires, 32 owners of individual organizations worked together to keep a man from employment for what he stood for. I think that's far, far worse than the commissioner of a league stepping in and saying, no, don't sign this guy, because he represents the owners. He doesn't do a thing that they don't want. Yeah. So if Jerry Jones actually had a set of balls that wasn't completely shrunken and full of Botox, he would have signed Colin Kaepernick.
What's the benefit of having your balls filled with Botox? What's the benefit of that?
They look massive, and you can really smack someone.
And they get more of a dodgeball consistency.
Imagine walking around with that in like your shorts or something, and like you're really hot. It's like a waterfall.
Oh. I actually never like quite understood why Mark Davis never took a chance on Kaepernick, because he's always been the kind of owner that, I mean, didn't really care so much about what other owners think. Maybe it was, if anything, it might have been more about the salary than anything else. But
Yeah.
he's not known as a Republican. He's not known as one of these owners that really cares about when the flag thing came out. He wasn't very outspoken about it. And Mark, and to be honest, there were so many situations where they could have brought him in and it didn't work. So I never got why the Raiders never gave him a chance.
It's very simple. It's very simple. Is that billionaires don't care about equality? Billionaires don't.
He's not a billionaire. He's not a billionaire.
But he's pretending to be, right? So
he's part of a group that is one.
Yeah.
He doesn't care about equality. He doesn't care about people. He doesn't care about his employees. What he cares about is the same thing all billionaires care about.
Yeah,
what other billionaires think about them, right? What do my friends think about me? And that was at the time why Nike was so impressed. Why Nike was so impressive, because they're willing to put their potential loss of reputation aside to have Colin Kaepernick as a spokesperson.
Yeah.
I mean, so like.
There's definitely a financial consideration
Of
on
course.
that. Someone did the
100%.
math, and they were like, "We're gonna come out positive."
But
on
It's just like that, friends. It's just like that.
Owners didn't do the math.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they did.
or they did, but they were wrong. So
No, it's not that they were wrong. Is they did the math, but their math is like, why are we gonna create this circus, a media circus
The
around
media
one
circus
guy?
is made up, Terry, because the media circus is happening now for the opposite reason.
I agree. I'm
Media
not.
circus passes.
Yeah, I'm not saying it's right. I'm just saying is that
yeah,
they
but
did the math.
we'll
and their
pretend it
math-
doesn't exist and it'll go away, right?
Kind
that was
of,
the
yeah.
idea.
Yeah,
Like they
exactly.
did with Greg Hardy, like they've done with guys who were
Wow.
rapists. With the guy, Ben Roethlisberger has been indicted for raping 2 different women.
Whip it.
Whip
Whip
it.
it. I told you I'm really tired.
All right. What else are we talking about today?
Oh, the NBA.
I've heard
the
this thing too much.
NBA playoffs is returning, and to be honest, I actually am kind of interested in the return of the NBA. What I like about it is, for years, people who love the NBA have been saying, if you start the NBA in on Christmas Day. Christmas Day already belongs to the NBA. It's long since been a tradition. They run the triple header, and it's where a lot of casual fans are watching. So if you start the season with that triple header, it pushes your playoffs after the hockey playoffs. So you really buy yourself. You're competing against baseball's regular season, which nobody watches. It's a game that.
Well, I mean, it depends on what part of the regular season.
And how old you are.
Last 2 months, the last 2 months of baseball, everybody watches.
100%, but like you're basically going, like if you go into like July, August, like that's right around the All-Star break. It's only when people are starting to watch baseball.
Yeah.
You'll capitalize on those earnings 100%. And
The last 2 months of baseball is about 400 games. So
that's also true.
Yeah.
But the Mark Cuban's actually been one of the owners who's tried to get the league to start on Christmas Day, and the old crotchety owners in the room have shot at him down in past years. So this might actually lead them to a future start on Christmas Day.
Yeah.
I think it's a slam dunk for the NBA more than any other sport right now. I think they have the most to gain with this format. NBA playoffs is exciting and there's a quick turnaround, gets you right into the season, right around Christmas. It's the best time to start watching basketball. And then you're watching basketball into the summer, and we've seen it in the Olympics, where basketball is extremely popular in the Olympics. I think it's absolutely a slam dunk.
I think it's a great. It's finally that they figured it out. I mean, the format's a little sketchy to me, but for the most part,
format was let's get Zion in.
Yeah, exactly.
100% to get Zion on TV.
It's so obvious, huh?
And it is what it is.
Yeah.
It's fine. I want to watch more Zion. Sure, let's do it. We missed 3 months of Zion at the beginning of the season. Let's get him now.
Yeah. I mean, it's true. They want to benefit as much as they can from a guy who's probably going to have a 7-year career because he's a monster, and I don't know if his knees are going to hold up. But I like it, man. I like the fact that they did it, and it's it gives the Pacers a good chance to win the championship this year. Is what it does.
Stop.
What?
I'm actually kind
What?
of. They're not going to win championship.
Why not? Why? Puncher's chance.
They're not very good.
Puncher's chance, though.
Yeah, that doesn't work in the NBA. We know the 3 best teams, and 2 of them will compete for championship. Especially now that that they're all rested. For me, what's interesting is the Lakers looked like they were lining up to have a shot at a championship, but this might see them face the Clippers in an early round. So I think that LeBron, who's often said, we know he doesn't like having Kawhi guard him because Kawhi is an absolute menace. We've seen it in the playoffs before. Now he might see him in the first or second round of the playoffs. They can't be happy with that seeding.
Imagine, and I'll let Duke answer. I feel like he wants to answer this, but imagine you're going to play against a team in the Western Conference Finals, and you end up playing them in the first round, which I don't think is going to happen. I think they'll end up being either 1-2 or 1-3 or whatever it is. But either of them they're both going to be in the top three. But imagine that LeBron has to face Kawhi in the first round. It'd be fucking nuts.
Look,
it would be pretty good. It would be pretty cool. The only thing that I'm thinking about is that unlike other leagues, is say a player catches COVID right during the season, what happens? Obviously that's like the worst case scenario, but
everybody dies.
But in the case that one guy does, right? What do they do? Does that player not play? Let's say Anthony Davis by chance catches it. Does that mean that he's out for the playoffs? Does it mean that he's going to be back? We don't know. So
I think they do.
There's a lot of uncertainty in that sense.
I think Pease has actual information.
According to Agent Wojnarowski, there's going to be 2 tiers of quarantine. So the stars, the Kawhis and LeBrons, they're going to be absolutely in a bubble. Like they're not going to see anybody but teammates and people they're playing against. Now, the thing is that anyone who leaves the facility will be tested before and after they leave because the access to tests is different than when COVID first broke out. So if someone gets COVID, there's not a chance that they will spread it to other players because they'll be removed. That said, you might have a guy who's like a 3-point specialist or a defensive lockdown guy who's playing 15, 16 minutes of decently important basketball who's not playing, and now you need to go into your bench of guys who don't typically play in the playoffs who now will have important roles to play.
I don't think we're going to get any cases. I really don't. I feel like I look at the UFC. The UFC's put on 6 events. I think they're going to put on their 6th next weekend. 6 events, and it's like they've had 1 case, and it was coming into the event. Other than that, there hasn't been any cases because they take your tests always. Like they see you, okay, here, come here, test, beep, and everybody from the coaching staff, from the UFC staff, from the judges, the refs, the fighters, especially everybody. And
the access to testing is really what's changed because now,
exactly.
When it first happened, we couldn't be testing people constantly because there weren't that many tests. Now they can. So now
are they going to test before every single game?
Yes.
They test you
every time someone leaves and re-enters the facilities.
I don't know if it's going to be every game, but it's going to be like every morning you have to do a check because they know that everything is confined, right? Mm-hmm. They're going to go from the hotel, wherever they are, to the bus, to the stadium. So like there isn't much chance of contamination, but they're going to be testing them along those lines. I don't think they're going to be tested 3 times. They'll probably be tested in the morning and then right before the game and then right when they get home or something like that. I don't know.
In a hypothetical, if someone does get sick, do they have protocol where it's like all their games are canceled for the next 2 weeks and everything?
They're not canceling any games. Yeah.
They have a protocol. The protocol is built so that Giannis, LeBron, Kawhi can't get sick. And if other people get sick, they're gone from their teams, but it shouldn't affect it that much.
Yeah.
But they're not going – it appears as though unless an entire team or unless like one of the stars gets sick and it completely destroys the structure, they're not going to be canceling games.
Next.
No matter what. So, Terry, Conor McGregor retires. It seems to be an annual tradition. But this got me thinking about something as we saw him retire early. We saw George St. Pierre retire initially after a squabble about money with Dana White. We saw there was another fighter that John Jones has allegedly retired as well. Are we heading to a place?
Unofficial.
I know, but it's leaning that way. Are we heading to a place where the fighters will force a union on UFC?
So the thing is that there was an MMA, mixed martial arts association, and it fell through because the thing is these guys are all independent contractors. They're all independent contractors. They have contracts for 7 fights, 8 fights, 4 fights, whatever it is. It's not like they're locked down for 82 games into an organization that has franchises. There isn't any franchise. So for the UFC, these guys, they can go anywhere they want. They have to buy themselves out of their contract.
Where can they go, Terry?
They can go to Bellator, they can go to PFL, they can go to Ryzen. Ryzen is in Japan. You can make crazy amounts of money over there, but it all depends on if they want you or not. Now, the only thing with the UFC is that, yeah, you want to be there. That is the place to be. It's like the NFL. You don't want to be in the CFL. It's the place to be. So the only thing is that the UFC holds so much power over who's in it, who gets a contract and who doesn't get a contract. Now, you have your three biggest moneymakers right now that are fighting for money. You have John Bones Jones, Connor, and you have Masvidal. Masvidal has said, just sign a new deal. John Jones just signed a new deal, and they're asking for more money. John Jones is asking for more money because he's going to be doing a super fight against Francis Ngannou, who can probably murder him. Like, I think we'll be realistic about that. So he's like, if I'm going to be risking myself against a guy who weighs 40 pounds more than me, I want more money. And
like,
whatever.
It's hard to say that John Bones Jones, it's hard to ever count him out just because of how great he's been.
Exactly.
But
there is Francis Ngannou.
If he just gets struck well, the fight's over. You know what I mean? Like
the Cameroonian nightmare. The guy will legit. All he has to do is touch your face and you're done. And that's the thing with Conor is like to the point where he's not getting the fight he wants. He wants to fight Justin Gaethje. Justin Gaethje is set to fight Khabib. Khabib can't fight until September. There's Fight Island in July. We don't know what's going on. And Conor's like, listen, if you're not going to give me the fight I want, I don't want to fight. So I'm going to say, fuck yourself. But he's also doing this to force the UFC's hand. The UFC has also come out and said that they're not going to put Conor in a ring unless there's fans there. So because they'll lose like $18 million is what the rough estimate is. And so I understand that completely. But for Conor, he's a fighter. He wants to fight. And for him, he's trying to get all these guys to come after him. And I wrote an article about this. He's trying to get all these guys to come after him and fight. He wants Khabib. He wants Gaethje. He wants Usman. He wants Masvidal. He wants Diaz. He wants this. He wants that. He's throwing out his blanket, and nobody's really biting with the chirps. So for him, the main reason why he likes to fight so much is the going back and forth, the press conferences, the traveling, getting in guys' faces, throwing water bottles at the Diaz brothers, like doing shit like that. And he can't do that because he's stuck at home quarantine. So for him, he's kind of lost all his energy. And that's what it's come down to. He's going to come back and fight. Conor's going to fight another 3 times in the UFC. There's no doubt in my mind that's going to happen.
Duke, I have a pressing question for you. Duke?
Tell me.
So much energy. I've noticed that you've been drinking beer during this episode.
Yes.
In a remarkably small cup, almost a sippy cup. Why are you drinking beer out of a sippy cup? And why do you have adult glassware?
The way it works in my house is I usually just use one glass the whole day. So if it's
Multi-mug.
coffee or water, beer, tea, I just kind of just wash it out.
Do you wash it? Okay.
I mean, that's kind of disgusting.
You just keep mixing them in one after another. You start with coffee, then there's water, and then it's
or
beer.
juice, coffee.
Like when you were a kid at a wedding, you put all the drinks together.
Yeah. No, man,
You still do that now.
I like using one glass, man. That's how it goes. This one just happens to look small because in my hands, but
I've been watching it. It's like, I was like, they make children's beer mugs. I didn't know that was a thing. So congratulations.
Did you say the glass looks small because of your hands?
Yeah, look, my hand covers it.
Oh man, I feel bad for your dick.
Heyo.
You
go making dick jokes.
Okay, so Terry, you have a lot of information here. So let's pull back the curtain. I didn't have time to write the script today. You did.
The odds? Okay,
Yeah.
I'll set it up.
Wait it.
So I fell on this. I was looking at the other day, today actually this morning, and I was looking at odds, and to win the MVP in the NFL for 2020, they have Josh Allen, Jarrett Stidham, who is by default taking over the starting job for the New England Patriots, and Christian McCaffrey, who's coming off an MVP-like season. They have them all at plus 5,000 to win the MVP. How the hell do they have Christian McCaffrey and fucking Jarrett Stidham at the same amount? It doesn't fucking make sense to me.
It's because people overvalue Bill Belichick. So I understand he's a great coach, but you're not a great coach if you don't have a great quarterback. We know this because he coached in Cleveland where he didn't have Tom Brady. And guess what? The Browns were the Browns. They were just a giant shithole. So congratulations. The Patriots, you're now the Browns.
Okay, but what about Josh Allen? I understand Josh Allen is a good player, but to be at the same level of Christian McCaffrey.
Josh Allen, I feel like it's just opportunity. He gets to play the Jets and Dolphins twice, and he gets to play a team led by Jarrett Stidham twice.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like whenever I played fantasy, I would always pick the New England defense just because I knew I had 6 easy matchups,
Well,
and it's paid off for the years past.
I know that shitting on Stidham is easy, but the guy has a bit of a tricky past in college, and it doesn't help that his name doesn't really sound like it doesn't sound like Brady, right? Like
It doesn't roll off the tongue.
Right, exactly. But if you consider Jared Stidham's career, right, he started off at Baylor, and because of Art Briles, kind of fucked up the whole situation, had to transfer, goes to Auburn, has a pretty decent career there, generally pretty good but not great. But at the same time, like a large portion of his collegiate career happened in Baylor, and he didn't really have a chance, but he was actually pretty good in college. And I don't see him being as great as Brady, but I just feel every time I hear people talk about Stidham, it's like it's just so easy to pile on the guy just because he happens to be the next guy that's taking over for Brady. You know what I mean?
What I'm saying is that we can't discount the fact that the Patriots had whatever you want, the best quarterback of all time, second best, third best. I don't give a fuck.
The best of all time, yeah.
One of the greatest of all time, however you rank them. But and now they don't have that. I don't think that's even controversial to say that Jared Stidham is, as far as we know, not as good as Tom Brady.
No,
as far as we know,
of course
yeah.
not. No, of course not. But you're. I can understand. I can understand Belichick's position too. Like it's at a point where Brady's at like 41. How old is he? 41, 42 years old. Yeah, I mean, yeah, he had a very good. His last season was pretty good. Maybe not as great as his previous seasons, but I mean, we have to be able to give a guy like Stidham a chance. Like, I mean, when Brady was drafted in the 7th round, we said nothing about him. We didn't even care about him. So I understand like that. You got to give Brady that kind of money no matter what. Have him finish out that last year there, but got to give a guy like Stidham a chance. Who knows what that can happen?
I also have a theory. I have a theory that because of all the Joe Montana, Tom Brady comparisons, that Tom Brady did it just so he can try and outdo Joe Montana and be like, well, yeah. When I went to Tampa Bay, I won a championship, Joe. What the hell did you do in Kansas City besides eat terrible barbecue?
Speaking of Tampa Bay, I saw a message today from Jameis Winston saying how he thinks he's the best quarterback in the world.
Well, I mean, to be honest, I had the most fun watching Jameis Winston last season. Like, he was my favorite quarterback to watch because, like, the outcomes was awesome. Like, he was at the 10-yard line, and there was an equal chance that it was a 90-yard touchdown or a pick six. Those are the only two outcomes
50,
when you come on red zone. It was the only two things that could possibly happen. So I loved it. I love the wide range of outcomes. It was awesome. It made for an interesting watch. We had rapid fire?
Not really. We kind of ran through two of them already, but I'll do one of them. UFC has announced finally Fight Island where it is. Nobody knew where it was going to be. It's in Abu Dhabi, which means it's closer to Khabib, which means it might be good for him. He might be able to fight. So the Fight Island is in the middle of the ocean, and it's near Abu Dhabi. That's all we know so far. And they're going to announce throughout this week. They're going to be announcing more details and things like that. So I'm excited. And also, sorry, go ahead, please.
I'm sorry. I hate Zoom. I keep hearing Fight Island, and what I love about it is it reminds me of like the Street Fighter movie, the Mortal Kombat movie. It just reminds me of 90s action movies. They need Steven Seagal. They need Steven Seagal at this event, either fighting, announcing,
on an airline,
carrying a ring card. I don't give a fuck. You need Steven Seagal in here.
Yeah, for sure.
Can he go around arresting people?
That'd be even better. I think he can.
Like under siege, like an under siege.
He is a sheriff, I think, right?
Sheriff
in Louisiana, yeah.
But we're not going to see him on TV anymore, so
that's a shame. Because Cops is canceled.
That's very unfortunate. Very unfortunate.
No, Cops was a great show.
So,
Cops is a great show. I don't know how Paramount or Spike, whoever it's Paramount, I think, canceled it. I mean,
because I don't know if you want to be the PR agent for the police right now, Terry, but I don't think you'll win that one.
That's another thing, man. I don't know why people are trying to defund
just put
the
Steven
police.
Seagal responsible for PR for police. It's going to be fine.
Everything's going to be
okay. If there's
okay.
anything I learned from his movies, he can string more than 5 words together without pulling the trigger.
That's not bad,
Sometimes.
actually. That's better than the average.
Exactly.
Next.
Oh, okay. We're continuing. So, something that you might actually like, Tyson Fury, the White Tyson, he is going to be fighting against Anthony Joshua. It's been announced, but not until he beats Deontay Wilder for the 3rd time. And so they're gonna get the rubber match. Well, rubber match. They're gonna get the third match, and then Anthony Joshua is finally gonna be able to face somebody of talent.
I remember watching the last fight, and when Joshua landed what was very obviously to everyone except Tyson, an obvious knockout punch.
Yeah.
And Tyson Fury just sort of shook it off. And it felt like when you're playing a video game and you're sure you have the boss beat, but he comes back with like another full bar of health, and you're like, fuck, Jesus! And you like whip your manette, you whip your controller. That's exactly what that was like. And it was in that moment where I was like, oh no. Yeah, no, there's not a way there's not a way I could see Joshua beating Tyson Fury. Just because
I don't think so.
the thing that Wilder, the thing that Joshua does is just have that ability to knock a dude out at any time, and he can't do that.
He's a pure boxer, Anthony Joshua, with a sick uppercut. We saw him knock out Klitschko. He's got a decent chin. We saw him beat Ortiz after he lost to Ortiz. Ruiz. Ruiz came in a little bit fat in that game. He kind of looked like me. But for the most part, I think Tyson Fury is the best fighter I've ever seen, really.
He's up there. Honestly, that last fight showed me the gap between the two.
Yeah.
So honestly, he's gonna win. We're gonna get the fight we want. I'm excited.
Good. That's pretty much it.
All right. Thank you, Terry, for doing everything good this week. Guys, I've been awful. I'm sorry. I'll be better next week. We'll try to get some interviews as well. Tune in this week. We're going to talk to one of our friends who is deep into hockey. Terry, what's the blog he represents again?
It's called Beyond the Box Score. Beyond the Box Score.
His name is Marco D'Amico. Really interesting guy.
Yeah.
We had a lot of fun with him. We really tried to irritate him as much as possible during the interview by asking very long-winded questions. We love to alienate our guests, so it might be the last time we ever hear from him. Thank you, Marco, for coming on with us. Thank you, Eagle, for the work that you've done. And Duke, you're fairly sober. I appreciate that.
Yeah, man, all yours today.
And remember, goodbye.